WWE Raw commentator Corey Graves has been one of the leading voices of the company since he moved to the main roster in 2016. He recently hit back at people who criticized his commentary during women's matches. Corey Graves came under fire a few months ago after he made some comments against Dana Brooke on Raw, with the latter responding publicly to the issue. However, he admitted to texting Dana Brooke about it and clearing the air. Graves has also cited his desire to indulge in more provocative commentary while not trying to damage anyone's character. Corey Graves' commentary during women's matches was brought up on Twitter by professional wrestling commentator and announcer Alyssa Marino, who criticized the Raw announcer without mentioning his name. She added that great commentary teams could elevate a match and its story, but described it as grating when the announcers are lost in a superstar's physical attractiveness. Corey Graves responded by telling Marino that she needed to learn the difference between an actual journalist and an on-screen character. Corey Graves was put under further criticism for his response of telling a woman that she's in the wrong line of work, to which he hit back, responding to criticism about how I speak on TV about a character portrayed by my actual fiancé trumps any of your woke bull, but you do you. You're welcome for the virtue signal boost, wrote Graves. While Corey Graves and Carmella's relationship hasn't been acknowledged on WWE TV, the Raw commentary team has hinted at it several times. While they don't seem to keep it a secret, they don't feel the need to acknowledge it as well, as it adds nothing to Carmella's character. With that said, there seems to be a polarizing opinion on the matter. While Corey Graves and his supporters seem to feel it's okay for him to comment on how beautiful his fiancée is on television, the other side of the argument is that he isn't doing enough to elevate women's matches. What is your opinion on this situation? Do you agree with Corey Graves? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. It's suspected that Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch could drop her belt, temporarily at least. Wrestling insider Dave Meltzer recently speculated over WWE's Raw Women's Champion and who could probably take over as the top female on the Red brand in the near future, at least for some time. Becky Lynch, the current women's champ, had a remarkable match versus Liv Morgan on this week's episode of Raw that ended controversially to prolong the angle. Speaking on the latest Wrestling Observer installment, Meltzer discussed what could possibly be up next for the title and suggested Morgan could become the next champion, as an upset would accomplish several things for WWE, especially given that Becky is already an established superstar who would not lose much ground even if she was relieved of the belt. Morgan, on the other hand, would see her popularity soar even higher on the back of a first major title with WWE. Meltzer said he isn't in the know as it pertains to the long-term plans on that front, but reckons Lynch should be the one holding on to the title in the long run. I think that's probably going to happen. Liv Morgan winning the title. The thing is, I don't know what the long term is, but I mean, they can have Morgan win, but in the long term, Lynch should be the champion, he explained. But there is no rule like she can't lose it for a little while and win it back. You know, it would make Morgan, it would help Morgan into something. It would elevate her to have a short reign, and Lynch isn't going to get hurt by losing it and winning it back. Lynch is already a star. I don't know that. They are sometimes hesitant about giving new people titles, but it's a pass-around title. I mean, there is no reason not to. I mean, it's not like it's Roman Reigns. The world title is not a pass-around title. Lynch used the ropes to get her pinfall over Morgan on Monday, leaving the door open for a rematch. The two stars could go head-to-head at WWE's heavily promoted Day 1 PPV special on January 1, 2022. It's possible that Morgan gets to hold the title briefly before the event, where she will be made to drop it back to Lynch. Bully Ray, FKA Bubba Ray Dudley, has strongly criticized an alleged instruction given to WWE fans during Becky Lynch's match against Liv Morgan. Becky Lynch retained her Raw Women's Championship in the main event of Monday's episode of Raw in Memphis, Tennessee. As the match drew to a close, Bully Ray learned on social media that security staff at the event told WWE fans to remain seated. Speaking on Busted Open Radio, the WWE Hall of Famer questioned why fans were not allowed to stand up and react to the enthralling match. I'm getting tweets toward the end of the show where security is telling people to sit down. It's fing ridiculous. Let me just say it, it's fing ridiculous. A main event is in the ring and nobody's standing, nobody's cheering, nobody's popping. It's the main event of a Monday Night Raw and you're not going buck wild? Bully Ray asked. The finish to the match saw Becky Lynch grab hold of the rope as she pinned Liv Morgan to pick up the victory. The referee did not see the Raw Women's Champion's illegal move, which meant the unpopular outcome was allowed to stand. This week's Raw main event was the biggest match of Liv Morgan's career so far. The former Riot Squad member had never previously challenged for a singles title on WWE television. Given the importance of the match, Bully Ray thought WWE fans should have been allowed to show their excitement in the crowd. Either you suck as a city, which I don't think Memphis does, or there are people in that building who are telling you to sit down, thus taking all the fun out of it. If I'm at home, and I'm watching that main event from last night, I'm like, wow, there's really nothing going on here. These people are not excited, these women must suck, Bully Ray added. The wrestling legend clarified that he likes both Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan. However, he believes the presentation of their match suffered due to the lack of crowd reaction. Rhea Ripley opened up about her equation with Nikki ASH, and said their dynamic is exactly like Randy Orton and Riddle. The the Nightmare said she empathizes with Orton as she has to face Nikki's quirks. Ripley compared herself and Orton to older siblings and Riddle and Nikki to younger ones and said they have to tolerate them. Speaking to metro.co.uk, Rhea Ripley discussed her equation with Nikki ASH. The former NXT Women's Champion credited Nikki with helping her bring out a new side of her character. She spoke about the commonality between her and Orton's personalities. They're so funny, and Riddle is just so annoying to Randy, and I love every minute of it. It's exactly how Nikki is to me. They're like our little siblings, you know, you can't hate them. You just tolerate them. Ripley revealed that even though she was always friends with Nikki, the two were not very close before being paired on screen. She said once the two practically became roommates, the bond grew exponentially. Nikki and we didn't really hang out beforehand, and now she's one of my favorite people in the world. Like, I loved her before, but now we are so close. We're roommates, we're travel buddies, we were tag champs. I love the girl, I think she's absolutely hilarious. So it's really nice to see where bonds form. A few weeks back, Ripley and Nikki lost the women's tag team championships to Queen Zelina and Carmella. Since then, Rhea and Nikki seem to be having some trouble in paradise. Brock Lesnar has been the epitome of a monster in WWE for the past few years. However, ever since Roman Reigns embraced the tribal chief persona, he has been unstoppable. Reigns has become the new Brock Lesnar and will continue to be portrayed as an impregnable force in the near future. Roman Reigns' last match was against Raw's WWE champion Big E at Survivor Series. The tribal chief defeated Big E, and some fans were not happy that Reigns went over Big E in that fashion. However, it is reported that WWE is building Reigns as a monster heel, and it is unlikely he will lose to anyone till WWE is ready for him to lose the title. Andrew Zarian of Mat Men commented on the criticism WWE got for having Reigns go over Big E at Survivor Series. He stated that WWE's current storyline is to build Roman Reigns as the indestructible heel Brock Lesnar once was. He said that the reason Reigns is not losing any matches is that the company wants to protect his image. Why would Roman lose? The whole story is that he is a monster. He is the Brock Lesnar now. He is undefeated. He has been the champion for over 400 days. This guy is not going to lose, and he is going to continue winning until someone dethrones him. Maybe the guy who dethrones him is Drew McIntyre, said Zarian. Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar have had a long rivalry over the years, and are set to clash once again at Day 1. The two men faced each other at Crown Jewel earlier this year with Reigns coming out on top. It is being reported that WWE plans to have a series of matches between their two biggest stars, and their match in January will just be one of the many set to happen next year. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter stated that Heyman could turn on Reigns and help the Beast Incarnate win the Universal title to further the program. He drew parallels to Survivor Series 2002, where the legendary manager turned on a young Lesnar and helped the Big Show win the WWE Championship. WWE SmackDown promised us Roman Reigns vs Sami Zayn when the show got underway. By the time it concluded, we did get the match. But it was a very one-sided affair, not exactly the classic we expected. We know that Raw scored the worst ever numbers in the 18 to 49 demographic last week. All eyes will be on WWE SmackDown to see how the company is able to bounce back. How it can remind the world that World Wrestling Entertainment is still the premier destination for sports entertainment. But can the entire WWE SmackDown roster, in turn, stand up to Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar? The two big men could steamroll through the entire division and leave them lying in a pile on the mat. Eventually, this newfound friendship could lead to a feud between the two men, but imagine the coalition until then. This may be the most dominant partnership since the Brothers of Destruction, maybe even a notch above.